The national holiday was approaching, a stretch of 7 blissful days. I had spent weeks poring over travel guides, a hopeful excitement bubbling in my chest. I envisioned a surprise trip, a chance to reconnect with my wife, Eleanor. The launch of her company's latest branch had consumed her, carving new lines of exhaustion onto her face and stealing the light from her eyes. She needed this. We needed this. I pushed open the heavy oak door of our villa, the scent of polish and quiet luxury meeting me. My planned speech died on my lips. Eleanor was on the sofa, her arm around our son, Toby, both of them laughing at something on her phone. Her smile, a rare and beautiful thing these days, was not for me. "Julian, perfect timing," she said, her voice bright. "Toby and I are going on an adventure. We're going waterfall rafting." Before I could process the words, she added the final, crushing detail. "And Leo is coming with us." The hopeful smile I'd been wearing froze and crumbled. Leo, her childhood friend, the brilliant musician she'd grown up with. He had returned from his studies abroad a year ago, and since then, had seamlessly woven himself back into the fabric of our lives. They met for coffee, for lunch, for long walks I was never invited on. But an entire 7-day trip? That was new territory. A cold knot formed in my stomach. 7 days? Where will everyone be staying? Eleanor's brow furrowed, her smile vanishing, replaced by a look of profound disappointment. "Julian, what are you implying? Don't be so foul. Your mind is truly a sordid place." "No, that's not what I meant," I stammered, rushing to explain. "Eleanor, it's not about that. Waterfall rafting is dangerous. The currents are strong, there are hidden rocks. What if something happens?" I thought a practical concern for safety might sway her, but her eyes only hardened. "Oh, I see," she scoffed, a bitter edge to her voice. "You'd rather I didn't. Go rafting. What was your grand plan? A trip to that dreary little island you love so much? Julian, your idea of a vacation is as bland and uninspired as you are." She knew. She knew about the surprise I'd been planning, the one I'd been hinting at for weeks. And knowing, she had still said yes to Leo. The thought was a physical blow. "Leo planned this entire trip, Julian. He's covering everything," she continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "You? Let me guess. Your little island getaway was going to be funded by our joint account, wasn't it? How clever of you. Using my money to take me on a holiday." She gave a short, sharp laugh, her eyes full of a disdain that cut me to the bone. I stood there, stunned into silence. For 8 years, I had been the silent scaffolding of her success. When her fledgling company teetered on the brink of collapse, it was my corporation, under a different name, that had offered the partnership that saved her. I'd done it discreetly, carefully, to protect her fierce pride, to let her believe she had done it all on her own. And this is how she saw me. As a freeloader? A man with no ambition? Eleanor, oblivious to the chasm opening between us, turned to our son. "Toby, sweetie, are you excited to go rafting with Uncle Leo?" "Yes, I want to go with Uncle Leo," he chirped. Then he turned his small face towards me, his expression petulant. "Daddy is so boring. Mommy, why don't you just marry Uncle Leo? Then he can be my new dad." The world tilted. The words, so casually cruel, struck me like a bolt of lightning. I looked at Eleanor, expecting a reprimand, a gentle correction. But she just pursed her lips, her brow tight, saying nothing. A moment later, the nanny appeared with their packed suitcases. Without a backward glance, Eleanor took Toby's hand and walked out the door, leaving me alone in the echoing silence of a house that had suddenly become a hollow shell. That evening, the emptiness of the villa was a physical weight. I opened my laptop and, against my better judgment, navigated to my social media feed. It didn't take long to find him. Leo had a secondary account he used to follow me, a pathetic and transparent attempt to ensure I saw his every move. His latest post was a selfie. He was in the driver's seat of Eleanor's car, a smug grin on his face, one arm slung possessively around her shoulders as she leaned in, smiling. The caption read, "After all this time, it's still you. Our 7-day journey begins." I stared at my own gray, defeated reflection on the dark screen. This was how it started. I began to dig, to look back at his posts, and a painful tapestry of their secret life unfolded. Love letters he'd photographed, bouquets of flowers with gushing captions, all for her. I wasn't just the third wheel. I was an afterthought, a piece of furniture they navigated around. The next morning, I flew to the island alone. The salty air did little to cleanse the bitterness from my soul. I sat on the tarmac, scrolling through my phone. Eleanor had just posted a picture, her in a bikini, laughing on a sun-drenched balcony. In the bottom left corner of the frame, resting on a table, was a brand-new Omega watch. I had seen the box on her dresser just last week and had foolishly thought it was a gift for our upcoming wedding anniversary. It was for him. I gave the photo a single, silent like. Then, I made my own post. I arranged the scene I had planned for us. A table on the sand at dusk, flanked by flickering red candles, fragrant rose petals scattered across the white linen. In the center, I placed the first love letter I had ever written her. The caption was simple, "The island we promised each other." I came alone. Not 30 seconds later, my phone rang. It was Eleanor. For a foolish moment, my heart leaped. An apology? A pang of regret? No, it was a tirade. "Julian, what the hell is that post supposed to mean? Are you trying to guilt-trip me?" Her voice was shrill, ugly. "I finally get a 7-day break, a chance to breathe, and this is what you do? You try to make me miserable." Before I could answer, I heard his voice in the background, a lazy, proprietary drawl. "Ellie, darling, come on. Don't waste your breath on him." Eleanor grunted in agreement, and the line went dead. My hand remained frozen by my ear, the silence heavier than her shouting. The promises I had cherished, the memories I had held sacred, were worth less than nothing to her. A humorless laugh escaped my lips. I picked up the love letter, its edges softened with time, and held it to the candle's flame. I watched as the fire licked at the paper, turning our history to ash. Then, I made another call. This time, to my legal team. "I need a full breakdown of my holdings in Eleanor's company," I said, my voice cold and steady. "Every share, every contract, every dollar I've invested. And draw up a divorce agreement. I want to sue for every cent I've put into this marriage for the last 8 years." The time for masquerades was over. "Eleanor, our road ends here." The days that followed were a silent, tormenting slideshow curated by Leo. He updated his feed relentlessly, each post a calculated jab. A photo of Eleanor, draped in nothing but a silk sheet, lounging on the round bed of their boutique hotel room. A picture of them embracing in front of a mirror, his hands low on her waist. One of her sitting on his shoulders by the water, laughing, utterly uninhibited. My heart, which I thought had already been shattered, turned to dust. This trip wasn't just for a holiday. Our wedding anniversary fell on the 5th day. The island was meant to be a renewal of our vows, a surprise to remind her of the love we once had. It was clear she didn't need it. On the 6th day, just as my plane touched down back home, my phone screamed to life. It was Eleanor again, and her voice was a shriek of pure fury. "Julian, you and your cursed mouth. Are you happy now? Leo is hurt, and it's all your fault." "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely bewildered. Her story tumbled out in a torrent of blame. Their raft had hit a sharp, submerged rock. It had torn a gash in the inflatable, and, in the ensuing chaos, Leo had lost his balance and been thrown into the churning water of the falls. He was nearly swept away. "And how is that my fault?" I asked, my voice flat. You knew we were going, and you deliberately said those things to curse us. You jinxed him. You wanted this to happen," she screamed. "Get to the provincial hospital right now and apologize to Leo. Don't make me hate you, Julian." The line went dead. She hadn't even given me a chance to respond. Leo's lack of preparation, his failure to check his equipment, was somehow my burden to bear. I ignored her command and went home. As I began packing my clothes, my fingers brushed against an old photograph tucked away in a drawer. It was from the night we met. It had been at a lavish birthday party for a business tycoon, held on a yacht. The deck was a sea of glittering gowns and dark tuxedos. No one noticed Eleanor, tipsy on champagne, stumble near the railing. No one but me. When she fell into the dark, churning water, I didn't hesitate. I dove in after her, pulling her limp body from the sea. That night, she told me I was her hero. A year later, we were married, and soon after, Toby was born. Life had been simple then, happy. But Leo's return was like a time bomb placed at the foundation of our family. He'd started attending her family dinners, picking Toby up from school, walking into her office as if he owned the place. Eleanor granted his every request without hesitation. Whenever I voiced a concern, her brow would furrow, and she'd accuse me of being petty, of not being generous enough. "I married you, Julian. What more do you want?" she would say. Eventually, I learned to keep my mouth shut. I learned to swallow my unease. I never imagined it would lead to this. A deep sigh escaped me as I heard the front door unlock. Had they come back already? It wasn't Eleanor. It was two of her corporate bodyguards, their expressions a mixture of embarrassment and grim determination. "Mr. Croft," one of them said, avoiding my eyes. "Ms. Vance has asked us to escort you to the hospital. We have to insist you come with us." She had sent her thugs for me. She was having me physically dragged to her lover's bedside to soothe his ego, all because I had warned her of a possible danger. I didn't move. Seeing my defiance, the lead guard gritted his teeth. "Sir, we're sorry about this." They grabbed my arms and half-dragged, half-walked me out of my own home and into the sterile, antiseptic-smelling hallways of the hospital. Eleanor was standing outside Leo's room, arms crossed, her eyes chips of ice. "Look at what you did," she hissed. "Look at what you turned him into. Are you proud of yourself? If it wasn't for your vicious, hateful words, none of this would have happened." Her logic was so twisted, so utterly nonsensical, it was almost breathtaking. From inside the room, Leo gave a weak cough and extended a trembling hand toward her. "Ellie, don't blame him," he rasped, putting on a pitiful show. "I'm sure he didn't mean it." He followed this with a series of theatrical coughs. Eleanor's expression melted into one of deep sympathy, and she turned her glare back on me. "You will apologize." Now, she had forgotten. In her all-consuming concern for him, she had completely and utterly forgotten that I was her husband. "Even if it wasn't Leo, it's wrong to wish ill on people, Julian. Apologize right now, or I'm cutting off your credit cards and throwing you out of the villa." I stared at her, a strange sense of calm washing over me. Did she really not know? In 8 years of marriage, I had never once spent a single dollar of her money. The villa, the cars, the life she thought she had built, it was all purchased with profits from the partnerships my company had provided her. Without me, there would be no villa to throw me out of. She mistook my silence for fear. A contemptuous smirk played on her lips. I knew it. "You can't bear the thought of losing the money, can you? Then go on. Apologize to Leo, or don't blame me for what happens next." She tossed her head back, utterly convinced she held my entire world in her hands. A genuine, unrestrained laugh bubbled up inside me. I walked past her into the room, stopping at Leo's bedside. I looked down at his pale, self-pitying face. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. A triumphant smile flickered across Leo's lips. He thought he had won, but his smile vanished as I continued. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have just said you might run into danger. My forecasting was clearly off. I should have been more specific and said I hoped for a fatality." "What did you just say?" Eleanor shrieked, grabbing my arm. Leo's face contorted with rage, but he quickly rearranged it into his familiar, martyred expression. "Julian, I know you despise me," he whimpered. "I'll stay away from Ellie from now on. Please, don't let me come between you two." His words were gasoline on the fire. Eleanor's face was a mask of fury I had never seen before. "Julian Croft, repeat what you just said. I dare you." I'd repeat it 100 times. Crack. The sound was sharp, ringing in the silent room. Her hand had flown, striking my right cheek with stunning force. The world went quiet. I turned to look at her, a burning throb spreading across my face, my eyes stinging. Eleanor's body went rigid, her hand trembling in the air. "Julian." She stammered, reaching for me as if to soothe the blow she'd just landed. I flinched away from her touch. In that moment, the last embers of love and affection I held for her were extinguished, leaving nothing but cold ash. "We're getting a divorce," I said, my voice flat and final. "I'm done with you." I turned and walked out of the hospital room, not waiting for her reply, not caring to hear it. The vows she had spoken on our wedding day, that she would never let me down, never cause me pain, echoed in my mind like a bitter joke. The circle was now complete. Back at the villa, I methodically continued to pack. Eleanor didn't come home that night. I finalized the instructions with my lawyers. My holding company secretly owned 30% of Eleanor's corporation, Vance Designs. She personally held 35%. 2 of her 3 flagship brand partnerships were with subsidiaries of my parent company. The third was a contact I had arranged through a close friend. She knew none of this. I remember the day she secured that final partnership. She had thrown her arms around me, breathless with excitement, telling me our good life was about to begin. It was after that day that she truly began to look down on me, to see me as the stay-at-home husband living off her success. She had overlooked one crucial detail: the yacht where we met. Only the city's wealthiest and most powerful were on that guest list. I was never just a poor boy who got lucky. The supply contracts with her company were due for renewal next month. I sent a single, Terse email to my secretary. Do not renew. Prepare for dissolution of partnership. 2 battles, fought on 2 fronts. I would bring her world crashing down around her, and she would have no one to blame but herself. She returned in the evening, her face a cold mask. She slapped the divorce papers down on the coffee table. What is the meaning of this? It means we're getting divorced, I said simply. Can't you read? On what grounds? She shrieked, her voice cracking with indignation. I have $100 million fortune, and you want to divorce me? And there it was. Her anger wasn't about losing me. It was about the fact that I, the insignificant man, was rejecting her and her money. Her wealth and her looks were her ultimate weapons, and I had just rendered them powerless. The thought filled her with a sense of confused outrage. $100 million? I don't want a single penny of it, I said. The divorce agreement I had drawn up was simple. I would not contest our shared assets, but I demanded repayment of the initial investment capital I had provided. For her, it was a pittance. Her phone buzzed incessantly. The first notifications of the contract cancellations were likely rolling in. She rubbed her temples, a wave of irritation washing over her. She turned to leave. Sign the papers, Eleanor, I said, my voice sharp. Enough, Julian. Are you ever going to let this go? So I went rafting with Leo. Is that really a reason to destroy our marriage? She snapped, trying to pull her arm away. I held fast. She looked at me, a sudden, cynical clarity dawning in her eyes. Oh, I get it. This is a ploy. You file for divorce, you smear my name, claim I was unfaithful, and then you try to blackmail me for a bigger settlement. Is that it? She looked so proud, so certain she had unraveled my pathetic little scheme. You planned this all along, didn't you? Saving me from the ocean that night. It was all so you could marry into money. The disappointment was so profound it left me breathless. I risked my life for you, Eleanor. Not for your money, I said, my voice quiet. You seem to forget. When we first met, you didn't have any. She froze, my words hitting their mark. Her jaw tightened, her gaze defiant. Finally, seeing nothing but resolve in my eyes, she snatched a pen and angrily scrawled her name on the signature line. You're the one who wanted this. Don't you dare say I was the one who broke my vows. I'll give you 5 days to find a new place. After that, you're out. She looked at me, expecting fear, panic. I just smiled. Don't worry, I said softly. I'll get out of the way. I wouldn't want to keep Leo waiting. Her face went pale. She stomped her foot like a petulant child and stormed out. I didn't watch her go. I picked up my suitcase, the signed agreement, and the small dog we had once bought together, and I walked out of that house for the last time. My secretary was waiting for me outside my penthouse in the city's most exclusive residential tower. He handed me a folder. The team at Vance Designs is in a panic about the contracts, sir, he said. Ms. Vance's new associate has been trying to get you on the phone. I nodded, thumbing through the documents. 5 days later, a meeting was set at my corporate headquarters to discuss the partnerships. I sat in my leather chairman's chair, gazing down at the street below. Eleanor had always been ostentatious. Once the money started rolling in, she'd leased a fleet of 4 identical black cars to serve as her personal motorcade, a desperate attempt to broadcast her newfound status. I, on the other hand, was a ghost in my own company. Most of my junior employees wouldn't have recognized me on the street. I watched as her cars pulled up. She emerged, followed closely by Leo. He had already taken my place. I stepped out of my office for a moment. By the time I returned to the executive floor, they were already in the main conference room. I was about to enter when I heard her sharp, disdainful voice. Julian, what are you doing here? I looked up. Eleanor stood there, dressed in a sharp, impeccably tailored suit. At her side, Leo wore a complimentary outfit. They looked like a power couple. For all my preparation, the sight still sent a shard of pain through my chest. This isn't the kind of place you belong, she said, wrinkling her nose. You should go. Don't embarrass yourself. Beside her, Leo chuckled. Lost your meal ticket, Julian? Reduced to crashing corporate meetings for the free coffee. He turned to Eleanor, whispering loudly enough for me to hear. Let's just ignore him. It'll be fun to watch security throw him out. Eleanor hesitated for a moment. Then they both swept past me and took the primary seats at the head of the long, polished table. I walked to a quiet corner and watched the scene unfold. When my secretary entered, Eleanor's eyes lit up. She stood, beaming, and walked toward him, Leo trailing smugly behind her. It's an honor to finally meet someone from Sterling Group, she gushed. We've heard so much about the chairman. A partnership would be a tremendous opportunity for my company. My secretary smiled politely, but said nothing. Instead, he walked directly to my corner of the room, stopped, and gave a deep, respectful bow that silenced the entire room. "Perhaps some introductions are in order," I said, my voice carrying easily in the sudden quiet. I stepped forward. "I am Julian Croft, chairman of the Sterling Group, the partner you've been so desperate to meet." I looked directly at Eleanor. It's been a while. Her eyes widened in shock, her hand flying to her mouth. This couldn't be happening. In her world, I was a nobody, a penniless parasite. The concept was too vast for her to grasp. "No, impossible," she whispered. "You can't be the chairman." Leo pointed a trembling finger at my secretary. "Stop messing around. This isn't funny." My secretary's polite mask slipped, replaced by a cool professionalism. "Our chairman has been renewing these contracts with Ms. Vance's company for years as a personal courtesy. Frankly, if not for their marital relationship, Sterling Group would never have considered partnering with an enterprise of your modest scale." Eleanor looked as if her soul had left her body. She staggered back, her eyes hollow. "Why?" she whispered, looking at me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I decided to give her the truth she had never been willing to see. "Because you were so fiercely independent. You needed to prove yourself. I hid my identity to protect your pride, to give you the space to build what you thought was your own empire. I wanted you to succeed without feeling like you were living in my shadow." I paused, letting the words sink in. "But you didn't appreciate the support. You saw a failure. You thought I was after your money." The other investors in the room shifted uncomfortably, their pitying and scornful glances landing on Eleanor and Leo like physical blows. For a woman as proud as Eleanor, it was too much. A sob escaped her, and she covered her face, running from the room. Leo, however, was incandescent with rage. "So you have a little money. What gives you the right to be so arrogant?" he snarled. "I'll have you know, Ellie and I are together now. We've slept together. You'll always be the man she cheated on." His words lit a fuse. A hot, white rage pulsed in my temples. My hand moved faster than my mind. My fist connected squarely with his jaw, shattering the lens of his designer glasses. He staggered backward, crashing into a tall wine rack. The sound of splintering wood and shattering glass echoed through the room as it came crashing down. Watching him lie there in a pathetic heap of spilled wine and broken glass, the suffocating weight on my chest finally lifted. I felt a sense of profound, clean relief. I smiled. "Have security escort him out," I said to my team, "and send him the bill for the damages. Every last bottle." This was only the beginning. The fallout at Vance Designs was swift and brutal. With the Sterling Group partnerships officially dissolved, the company was hemorrhaging money. Most of the staff, seeing the writing on the wall, abandoned ship. Soon, only a handful of loyal veterans, Eleanor and Leo, remained. Simultaneously, the story of our divorce and her affair, subtly leaked from anonymous sources close to the situation, became the talk of the business community. Eleanor's professional reputation was in tatters. I felt no guilt. I had built her company from the shadows, and now I was watching it crumble back to dust. It was simply the turning of a wheel. One night, working late, I received a text from her. "I'm downstairs." I looked out my office window. In the plaza below, she had arranged a circle of roses and red candles, a pathetic mimicry of the scene I had created on the island. She stood in the center, looking small and fragile. I went down. "What is this, Eleanor?" "Julian, I've been thinking, trying to figure out where we went wrong," she began, her voice hoarse and desperate. And I realized I was the one who was wrong. "I took you for granted." Tears welled in her eyes. "I was looking through your old posts. I saw the island, the surprise you planned for me. I'm so sorry, Julian. I was so blind. I'm so sorry." She tried to press a single rose into my hand. I didn't take it. "You've always ignored the important things, Eleanor," I said, my voice flat. "The letter I burned? It wasn't just a letter. It contained the promise we made to return to that island. On that specific day, our wedding anniversary." Her body went stiff, her expression blank. She had completely forgotten. "The letter, you burned it," she whispered, horrified. "But that was a symbol of our love." A symbol? Was I supposed to frame it? Hang it on the wall next to the photos of you and Leo as a monument to your new love? Her face hardened at the mention of his name. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I had saved of Leo's posts, the intimate photos, the suggestive captions. The color drained from her face, leaving it a sickly white. "If you truly want to reconcile, the first step would be to get that parasite out of your life and your company," I said coldly. "But we both know that's not why you're here. This is about business. This is a last-ditch effort to win back the contracts. As if on cue, two figures ran toward us from across the plaza. It was Toby, with Leo trailing behind him. "Mommy, Daddy's being mean. I don't like him," Toby shouted, running and slamming his small, pudgy body into my legs. He was a ball of fury, but I was struck by something else. He was noticeably heavier than just a few weeks ago. "Eleanor," I said, my voice sharp with a new kind of anger. "You know he has juvenile diabetes. Why are you letting him get so overweight?" She looked down, ashamed, saying nothing. Leo stepped between us, puffing out his chest. "I'm the one who feeds him. What's it to you? A father's job is to make sure his kid eats well, not starve." "Him." Toby nodded vigorously at his side. The boy was too young to understand the danger he was in. But Leo wasn't. This was deliberate. This was malicious. "Ellie, let's go," Leo said, grabbing her arm. "Don't waste your time on this heartless bastard." As they walked away, Eleanor looked back at me one last time, her eyes filled with a desperate, unspoken plea. I felt nothing. I called building maintenance, paid them double to clean up her mess, and went home. The next morning, I made a call to Mr. Zhou, the elderly and respected proxy who had held my 30% stake in Vance Designs for years. It was a deal. We'd struck on a handshake, an agreement built on old-world trust. I had never touched a cent of the dividends. It was time to call in my marker. I walked into the nearly deserted offices of Vance Designs. The remaining shareholders were gathered in the conference room, their voices raised in a heated argument over whether to declare bankruptcy or try to struggle on. My entrance silenced them. "What are you doing here?" Leo demanded, jumping to his feet. "You have no right to be here." Across the table, Mr. Zhou stood and gestured for me to take his seat at the head of the table. I nodded and sat down. "This is Eleanor's company," Leo raved. "You don't belong in that chair." "And what gives you the right to be here, Leo?" I asked calmly. "Are you a shareholder?" "I have 5%, he said, puffing out his chest. I almost laughed. I pulled a file from my briefcase and slid it across the table to Eleanor. "Mr. Zhou holds 40% of the company's stock. As per our long-standing agreement, 30% of that belongs to me. That makes me the second largest shareholder. I believe that grants me a right to be here." Eleanor snatched the papers, her hands trembling as she read. When she found my signature next to Mr. Zhou's, she collapsed into her chair. "You lied to me all this time," she whispered. "I didn't lie, Eleanor. I just allowed you to believe what you wanted to believe," I said. "I loved you. I supported you in the only way I knew how, a way that would allow your own pride to flourish. And by the way," I added, addressing the room, "Mr. Zhou has also agreed to transfer his remaining 10% to me. That gives me a controlling interest of 40%. Higher than yours, Eleanor." I scanned the faces of the other investors. As you can see, this company is a sinking ship. I am prepared to buy out any and all shares, effective immediately. For anyone who wants to unload this. Hot potato. One hand went up in the corner, then another, and another. Within minutes, I held 70% of the company's stock. Eleanor's face was a mask of green-tinged despair. "Are you satisfied only when you've pushed me into a dead end?" she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I built this company with my bare hands. You've just stolen it from me." In the past, her tears would have broken me. Now, I felt nothing. "Without me, this company would have folded 3 years ago," I stated, my voice devoid of emotion. "Without me, there would have been nothing for you to build. I am the one who made your dream possible. You should be thanking me." The company lawyer distributed the pre-drafted acquisition papers. One by one, the shareholders signed. The old guard immediately began addressing me as chairman. Their loyalty is fluid as water. Eleanor, her pride forbidding her from working under me, signed over her remaining shares for a final payout. Leo sold his paltry 5% to another director and scurried away. I watched Eleanor walk out of the building, a ghost in the empire she once thought was hers. I didn't say another word. The next morning, my secretary called in a panic. "Mr. Croft, you need to get down here. Someone has vandalized the front of the building." It was Leo. He stood on the sidewalk amidst shattered glass and the wreckage of our company sign, brandishing an axe. "You finally came, Julian," he screamed. "What's the meaning of this? You've been slandering me online. You've ruined my life." "The press conference?" I asked innocently. "Oh, that was just a standard announcement about the corporate merger. It's not my fault one of the reporters recognized me as Eleanor's ex-husband and asked a few pointed questions. I simply told the truth. You had an affair with my wife. You flaunted it on social media. You deliberately endangered my son's health. These are facts, are they not? He was speechless, his face turning from red to white. With a roar of frustration, he charged at me with the axe. My bodyguards subdued him in seconds, grinding his pretty face into the pavement. I always pay my debts, Leo, I said, crouching down to look him in the eye. Meeting me was the worst luck you've ever had. We pressed charges. The damages came to over $600,000. He had only gotten $300,000 from selling his shares. The court seized it, and a payment plan was enforced for the rest. He had to sell his car, his apartment, everything. Eleanor, in a final act of misguided loyalty, gave him another $100,000. It barely made a dent. Months passed. My company, rebranded and restructured, flourished. One afternoon, my secretary informed me that Eleanor was downstairs, waiting with Toby. She was thinner, the arrogance gone, replaced by a weary fragility. She was wearing the same simple sweatshirt she'd worn on one of our first dates. "Dad, I missed you," Toby said, running to me. He was even heavier now. I pushed him away gently. "I'm not your dad, Toby. Go find him." "You still won't forgive me, will you?" Eleanor asked, her voice quiet. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about acceptance. The past was a closed book. She told me Toby's diabetes had worsened. Years of soda and fast food, encouraged by Leo, had taken their toll. His blood was now milky with lipids. He needed a radical, expensive surgery, a full blood transfusion. A cold dread filled me. How could you let this happen? You're his mother. She just looked down, weeping silently. And Leo? He had taken the money she'd given him and disappeared the moment he heard the diagnosis. Of course he had. "He's your son, Julian," she pleaded. "He needs this operation. Please, just lend me the money. I'll pay you back. I swear." Legally, morally, he was still my son. I took a business card from my wallet and handed it to her. It was for the top pediatric specialist in the country. "Take him there. Tell them you're with me," I said. "They will bill my account directly for everything. The surgery, the tests, the aftercare. I will cover it all." "You still don't trust me," she said, a new wave of bitterness in her voice. "You're afraid I'll take the money and run." "Yes," I said. It was the truth. She clenched her fists. "I will pay you back. I won't let you look down on me forever." She took Toby's hand and left. True to her word, the monthly payments started appearing in my account, small but consistent. For 6 months, they arrived like clockwork. Then, one month, the payment didn't come. I didn't think much of it until a week later, when my secretary quietly informed me he had some news. Eleanor had been collecting cans and bottles by the roadside to make ends meet when a drunk driver had lost control of his sports car. She was killed instantly. Toby had been placed in the local orphanage. I was in the middle of a board meeting. My hand, holding a pen, paused for a fraction of a second over a document. I processed the information, filed it away in a distant, quiet part of my mind, and continued the meeting. Her story had reached its final, tragic chapter. Mine, however, was just beginning. I looked toward the future and felt, for the first time in a long time, a sense of profound and grateful peace.